So while we wait for Vice Chancellor to come in, I think you've given your holders each which has a program. Slight changes here and there, not too many, but a few for you to make note of. A little slip back and pen just so that you can make good use of the tools. The next few days, in fact, next few hours, you will know the students. And then we have the formal round of introductions. You will match the name with the face and so on.
Yes.
Because when I first heard your name, I was like,
Yes.
Sarah?
Aww.
Sarah, am I pronouncing it correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Justina? Tina? Rosie? Jane? Emily? Amari? And Tara. Yeah, she is the senior most, apart from, of course, Professor Kumar and Professor Prakash Kumar from History and Asian Studies at the University.
Hello. Hello. Hi. Nice to meet you.
These are our students who will be to interact with them.
Namaskar. Namaskar. Do you know the Indian way of greeting? When we greet somebody, we put our hands like this and say Namaste or Namaskar. So on behalf of the IIS University, I extend a very hearty welcome to all of you who have come all the way from Pennsylvania to visit India and particularly Jaipur. We at the IIS University are privileged to have Penn State University students for the last 5-6 years. That is, we started in 2003. And it has always been a good experience and good exposure for our students also when they interact with the group and They learn a lot about your culture, and in turn, when you mix with them, you come to know as to what the way of living is, what the way of learning is, and what kind of education is imparted in this university or in the Indian system. Because the Indian system is almost the same everywhere, barring a few modifications and changes in curricula and other things, we have the same system. About this university, I should tell you, this is an all-women university, and we have arts, science, commerce, home science, fine arts, computer science, management, and many other disciplines, wherein we have more than 6,000 students studying on the campus. We don't have any branch, but this is the only campus that we have, and we are fortunate to have students from all over the country and some students from abroad also. So this is what the IS University is. And the other things you will come to know when you interact with the students and staff of this university. I welcome all the 8 undergraduate students who have come from Penn State, and Nayan Tara Singh, who has just graduated, accompanied by Professor Prakash Kumar and Ms. Liza Karchinsky. I'm sure your experience at the university and in the pink city of Jaipur, that is, Jaipur is called the pink city of India. You may be knowing Jaipur is a part of the Golden Triangle, which is called Agra, Delhi, Jaipur. So it's a golden triangle. Whosoever comes to India, he goes to Delhi, maybe gets off in Delhi, then goes to Agra or Jaipur, and then Agra, like this is a triangle. So you are a part of the triangle, or we are a part of the triangle where you have come to visit us. Thank you very much for being with us. Enjoy your day, have the feel of what we do, and go back with good memories. Thank you and welcome.
Hello everybody, my name is Sarah Mena. I am a third-year undergraduate student at Penn State, and I'm studying kinesiology, which is the study of human movement and sports sciences.
My name is Amari Lee. I'm a second-year undergraduate student at Penn State University, and I'm majoring in psychology.
Everybody, my name is Emily Yokum. I'm a fourth-year undergraduate and first-year graduate student studying international politics and Japanese.
Hi everybody, my name is Jane Chown, and I'm a fourth-year undergrad, and I'm studying psychology and biology.
It's good if you tell.
Hi, my name is Justina Luongo. I am a second-year undergrad at Penn State University, and I'm double majoring in psychology and film.
Hi everyone, my name's Allie. I'm a second-year undergrad student, and I'm studying audiology, which is like a doctor of ears and people who have hearing loss, with a minor in global health and Spanish.
Hi everyone, my name is Rosie Zhang. I'm a second year at Penn State undergraduate, and I'm studying computer science and psychology.
And I'm Taylor. I'm also a second year undergraduate at Penn State, and I'm studying biochemistry.
I'm Indian. I graduated from Penn State in 2016, and I'm now accompanying this group through their program.
Namaskar. My name is Rakshata Singh Bhadoria, and at the IS University, I'm doing majors in psychology along with economics. Welcome you all.
Namaskar everyone, my name is Richa Rathore, and I'm doing my master's in English literature. Thank you.
Namaskar, my name is Mudita Chaudhary. I'm pursuing master's in English literature from the university. Thank you.
Namaskar, my name is Shivangi, and I'm a postgraduate student in English literature from the university.
My name is Rituparna Sen, and I'm a final year undergrad student majoring in accounting and finance.
I'm Srilekha Singh and I'm an English literature major currently in my second year of undergraduate. Thank you.
My UG here with BBA, Bachelor's of Business Administration. Thank you.
And I'm currently pursuing English Honours second year. Thank you.
Namaskar, I am Vanya and I am pursuing BA in Psychology, English Literature and French. Thank you.
Namaskar, I am Akarshi Srivastav. I am a second year undergraduate student and I am pursuing major in English Literature. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lisa Kurczynski and I am the Director of Career Development at the Schreier Honors College at Penn State University. And maybe just my major was interpersonal communications with a minor in marketing, and my master's is in college student personnel administration from Indiana University. I'm very delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now invite Professor Prakash Kumar to say a few words.
Hello, I'm Prakash Kumar. I'm Associate Professor of History and Asian Studies at Penn State. Historian by training. I wrote my first book on the global history of indigo plant. And currently I'm writing a history of degraded society in India and the history of agriculture in India. And I call it the history of hunger. Bhukka Vilas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And look forward to have a mutual enriching on-campus experience. Thank you and welcome once again. Now have a group photo on the porch, after which you're invited to tea and refreshments served at the hostel mess. We'll reassemble right here sharp at 12 noon for the next session.
आज मैं आई हूँ IIS यूनिवर्सिटी में। यहाँ स्टूडेंट एक्सचेंज प्रोग्राम चल रहा है जहाँ की पेन स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी से स्टूडेंट्स आए हुए हैं। एंड आई थिंक ये बहुत अच्छा मौका है IIS यूनिवर्सिटी के स्टूडेंट्स के लिए भी और पेन स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी USA के स्टूडेंट्स के लिए भी एक दूसरे के कल्चर को जानने का। आज बहुत सारी एक्टिविटीज़ होने वाली है जिसमें पहले आज बहुत
It's
Is there a particular psychology that you're
right now I'm doing studies in psychology with economics, and that was last year. That is when you choose specialization. So
see, I have to stay away.
Right now I'm thinking of getting
It's for convenience for allowing for the passage, but it's not meant to, have you sit here and then sit there. I'm sure eventually. Considering we have about 40 minutes or so, we actually break for the scheduled tea break. So why don't we just move the session post tea? Watch here, just use the contest mic. Or just speak to us, going to keep the mic to reach out to the small audience. To just tell us, them especially, about the India experience so far. Because I understand that this is the last leg of the tour. And being from here,
स्टूडेंट्स के लिए और पेन स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी के
tell us about, how we plan to do what kind of learning objectives and what have you been able to achieve so far in Delhi. It also go down south to Bangalore. No, not Bangalore, okay. Delhi and then up north. Yeah, so all of that, and then of course what you expected from England in 2013. So your expectation, what have you done so far, key learnings, just a little sharing, so if you can have that till we break the tea at 11:30.
Yeah, you guys gonna I'll just sit in a circle. Less awkward. I don't get to feel it's more casual. I don't even know if I need a mic, this is kind of weird. Okay. So we started in Delhi for about
I'm gonna need a bounty up for you, like, yeah, we're all pretty close. Can you hear me? I mean, like, I think you can. Yeah, it's like pretty loud. We started in Delhi for like a week and a half. We were at SRCC at Delhi University. So we're with a lot of business kids, so it's very exciting now being with kids who are closer to our major and people who are closer to our age too. Because at the other universities, a lot of them were masters and postdoctoral students. So it's exciting being with kids our age again. And yeah, so we started in Delhi, and then we went to Amritsar for 2 days, I think. Then up to Shimla for around 3, and then to Chandigarh, and now we're here. So we've been up and around a little bit. Personally, Shimla was my favorite. If we're just talking about favorite location, it was just beautiful there. I really liked the environment and the people. Everyone was more of a relaxed pace. It was cooler too, which is nice. And I'm just somebody who likes the mountains and like hiking in nature, so it's really pretty. Talking about Jaipur specifically, my sister, she did the program 2 years ago, and Jaipur, of like all the places they went, was her favorite. She loved it here and loved the university, so I'm really excited to experience it myself because she showed me so many pictures and everything of when she was here. And like looking at the itinerary, it seems like we have a lot of like super fun activities planned of like learning how to make pottery and jewelry. And I'm like a really crafty person, like I love doing that kind of stuff, so I'm really excited for that part. And I guess learning objectives, I'm like excited to learn from you guys.
Just say a few things, just to be politically correct.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, like I'm not majoring in psychology, but in my field of study, I have to learn a lot about psychology, just because I work a lot with the special education population, which is kind of a branch of psych. So I'm interested in learning from you guys the different perspectives, especially in that area, because that's my research area. I'm doing research on the nonverbal population in Sri Lanka, so it's kind of similar to here, so I'm excited to kind of learn about that area, I guess. Like I'm not even using the mic. If anybody wants to hold the talk, it's still hold
Each one speaks up.
Well, Ali covered a lot of words, but
usually do.
Personally, I think that Shimla was awesome, and I love Shimla, but I'm from the city, like back home in the United States, so I really enjoyed Delhi, like being in like a fast-paced environment. Just even though it's so different, it's like being in a city. It's like just being in a city. Like there's lots of noise, there's lots of people, there's lots of culture. So I loved being in Delhi. I think we made really good relationships with the Delhi students, and because I think that like our amount of time spent here and our amount of time spent there is like similar, we'll be able to make those kinds of relationships with you guys, which is awesome. So I'm really excited about that. I'm also really excited about being on like an all-women's campus, just because like back home I've been through a couple of like all-girl programs where it's just like women empowerment, feminism, so I'm like really into that, so it's like really exciting being here. And yeah, I'm a psychology major, so I'm excited that some of you guys are psychology majors. And I personally want to go into like art therapy as an avenue for like children's, like kind of clinical, but also not traditional, because you know, art therapy isn't really accepted as like a traditional or like mainstream line of psychology. So I'm really excited about that and like sharing those kinds of ideas with you guys. You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of like similar stuff to what they said. I did enjoy Shimla because I like mountains and I like cool weather, so that was nice. But in Delhi, I just like really enjoyed interacting with the students, and I think I formed like friendships that I probably will have for the rest of my life. And so I'm really like excited to like meet all of you guys and like get to know you guys all really well. And I think since we have so much time together, that's definitely possible. And I'm just like excited to learn from you, like about your culture and like what you do here at IS. So very excited for that. Yeah.
It's covered a lot. But yeah, I was really excited that we got to go to like a big city like New Delhi and then also go to Shimla. Just that contrast I think was really important for us, like in our time here, just to see both sides. I am really excited to be back in the city because I do love the city a lot. And I don't know if I call this a learning objective, but I guess like I just want you guys to feel comfortable like asking us like anything you're curious about, and like hopefully like we'll feel comfortable enough asking you guys just really any questions you have. I just want to like make it clear like we're totally open, like literally any question that you have. Yeah, let's just pass the time.
That's comforting for them, right? It's the second trip you said to Japan? Is this your second one?
Oh no, I meant back like in a city setting.
Like that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty similar to what everyone else has said. I like Shimla a lot, but like I think Delhi was my favorite place so far just because we learned so much from the Delhi students there. And I think like that's like a really good way to learn about someone's cultures, like actually interact with the people. And we found that we had like a lot of similarities with them, even though we come from different countries, which was really cool. So like I'm just excited to do that with you guys. I'm also not a psychology major, but I have a minor in human development and family studies, so I learn a lot of like psychology, humanity, and social sciences through that. So I'm excited to talk with you guys about that and just kind of like compare how our like college lives are.
I think my favorite place was Shimla as well, just because it's very cool and cool in the two different senses. It was very cool to be in the mountains. Like I never imagined to be in the Himalayas, and every second I got, I would look at the mountains, and it's just so beautiful. Like it would be great to like live there or something. But also with Delhi, like it was really great and nice meeting the SOCC students, and it was interesting because we also met, and we also went to an all-girls university for one day, but we definitely didn't get to spend as much time with the those students.
In Shimla?
In Delhi as well.
All-girls university? Okay, the college, of course.
So I'm excited to just learn about your campus, your university, and how different all-girls schools. And I guess also my learning objective is to learn about how psychology is taught here. Because I'm a psych major and I'm in my final year as a psych major, so I've learned a lot of different things, and I want to see if you guys learn the same thing as well.
Hi, my name is Rosie. I think, just to reiterate everyone, I guess my favorite place was Delhi and Shimla. I also love the city, and I love meeting people and creating lasting relationships, and I'm excited to do that with you guys because we have time together, and I just want to learn about your life and just how it's different from ours. And then Shimla was just very beautiful. As Jane said before, I'm also a psychology major, but I think one of you mentioned that you're doing a BA, and at our college we have an option to do a BS in psychology. So so I want to see how that's different and the differences we learn through that. Yeah. Learning. Yeah, that's
Hi guys. So I guess my favorite part of the trip has been Delhi because I am a city person myself, and I like to just kind of see everything in real life after seeing it all on TV and hearing about it and everything. But Shimla was also really cool because, like Jane said, I never expected to like be up in the mountains, so that was really exciting. But when it comes to learning objectives, at Penn State, like before I came to India, I have a lot of friends at Penn State who are international students from India, but all of them are guys and all of them study engineering. Because like that just happens to be who studies abroad, I guess. But so I'm really excited to like meet you guys who are not male and who don't study engineering to see how it's different, to get to know you guys. So
we're open to pursue that as well.
Great, wonderful. That's great. So, maybe from the IS University, or all of you also want to share in terms of your expectations, because they get selected to be on this program. We ask them why you want to be a part of this program, and they fill up a form and say why do I want to be part of this collaborative, and then there's an interview which I hold, and sometimes assist with my colleagues, and then so they have to justify why they want to be picked up for this. So you want to talk about that, what you told me, that why should you have me, ma'am? Or you want to maybe talk about your expectations, with this kind of interchange of ideas.
An interview to Ramika ma'am, and I personally told her that me being NCC student, it's National Cadet Corps, so we do the parades, drills, and some discipline part. So basically, for that purpose, I thought that if any one of you is interested in doing that further or learning something regarding that, you can contact me. So that's the thing.
Even with the discipline.
That's very simple.
And we
Boy
have
Scout.
Exactly.
Boy
Boy Scout, right. NCC, yeah. Study
Yeah.
session on NCC.
Shivangi again. So I've all my life I've been here in Jaipur, but I'm a person who likes to travel a lot. I've traveled only in India. Oh, yes. So I've traveled around in India a lot. Shimla being again one of my favorite places. My grandmother is there. I'm a part of this group for the second time, and I really hope, you know, the kind of enthusiasm I can sense, you know, coming from you guys. It's gonna be a really fun-filled learning experience. You know, for all of us, and I really hope that, you know, we as a part of you know, university, we are able to help you, and we are able to ask questions, you know, fetch some knowledge from you guys, and you know, it goes vice versa, you know, other way around as well. So we're really hoping for some really good experiences.
Hi everyone, my name is Richa Rathore. Because I am this is the first time I'm part of this IISU core group, so I'm very excited about this because I really want to learn something new from you guys and all about the culture, because I know various things about my culture, but I just want to know your culture as well, and everything as Shivangi said, we can fetch knowledge and other way around, so we can do this all together in a very nice way.
I'm Mudita, and I think for me, interaction and communication is the best way to learn, to explore, and to represent your culture, yourself, and also college. So I think, yeah, I'm looking forward for the same. And that's it.
Considering nobody's using it, what pass the mic still.
Hi guys, my name is Riduparna, and I'm part of this group for the second time. We had Penn State last year, and we clicked so quickly, and I mean, I'm friends with all of them basically, and I still, you know, we still chat, and I sent a snap to one of them yesterday. I'm like, Penn State is coming, and they're like, oh my god, stop, I miss you so much. So, I really look forward this year to, you know, just interact with you all and share knowledge with you all, and gain as much as I can, we all can, and I look forward for all of you with us having a really great time.
Hi everybody. So Rituparna and I are sisters, and there's this very interesting thing about us that we are, you know, well aware of three cultures of India: the West, the Central, and the East India, because of our families. So the thing that I found about West India, and especially the state of Rajasthan, is that it's very culturally rich. So, you know, as a learning objective, I would like to, you know, contribute as a team to introduce you to our culture and also learn from your culture as well, but specifically tell you why West India and the state of Rajasthan is, you know, A1.
Hi everybody, my name is Anuradha, and actually I've never happened to have visited the US or any other country outside India for that matter. So I really feel that all I know about US is either from some TV shows, some movies, or maybe the internet. So this could be a really good opportunity for me to get some first-hand experience from you guys, and as Shivangi said, it's a two-way thing. So like when we are knowing about your culture, you get to know about ours, and I am also having as my elective subject psychology, and I'm seeing that many of you guys do too. So I'd really like to know how you study psychology there, how it's different here. So it will be a really great experience for everybody.
Hi, I'm Vanya. Just like Anuradha said, this is my first time too. So I've never been to US or any other country. But like Rimvaka ma'am said, as a learning objective, I would like to not just tell you about how we study and pursue our education here, but also I'm a part of NSS, that is National Service Scheme. So we also do social work here. So we are very involved in women empowerment and other lot of things.
Community.
Yeah. And I guess we have a session on that too. So we do it every week for 1 hour. And I guess I'll be really happy to tell you more about that and how the Indian youth is heading towards social work and towards what their vision about their country is.
Hello, I am Akarishi Srivastav, and this is for my first time I participated in this, and I fortunately got selected. And as you have came from that Shimla, exploring to Delhi, and then Chandigarh, then Jaipur, so you must have put into notice that each and every place have a different culture. Like you have come to Jaipur, you will experience a different culture. You will explore the forts and all, you'll know the history about it, different colorful dresses over here, the dances over there. So I hope you'll enjoy over here, and I got this opportunity to actually enjoy these things with you. So I hope you go with the good memories and have something to tell about to that to your friends. Thank you.
I'm Rakshita, and I'm pursuing BS in psychology. So we also have a BS in psychology. So they give us an option of taking economics as an subject. So we have both of them, BA and BS as well. And I am very excited to communicate with all of you because, as Sir said, we have this golden triangle in India. So I am basically from all the 3 cities of this golden triangle. So I can give you an experience of all the 3 cities for that matter. And maybe in the home visit we can have some royal experience or maybe something like that. The typical state culture that we have here. So good to see you guys.
Welcome you all to this special session, which is a talk which Professor Prakash Kumar has so very kindly agreed to deliver on what you can see before me is the topic: India's hunger problem and American food aid, the politics and political economy of humanitarianism. A bit about Professor Kumar before I ask him to take over. He's from the Department of History and South Asian Studies at the Penn State University, US. Specialist of South Asian history and history of science. His broad areas of interest are science, agriculture, environment, and knowledge. His recently published book entitled Indigo Plantations and Science in Colonial India is a social history of indigo that illuminates the connections of South Asia with the wider world while covering the odyssey of indigo through the peasant and plantation phases. I'm so happy you're doing it here because we grow indigo, so it's just lovely. He's currently writing a history of agriculture and social movements focused on India in the colonial and post-colonial eras, something for the English students here, as part of 2 separate book projects, and at the moment he's fellow Framing the Global Project at the Center for the Study of Global Change, Indiana University. I think the period is up to 2018, is that your fellowship? Lovely. To do the honors, because we do first things first, I will request Dr. Sharad Rathore to welcome and greet Professor Prakash Kumar with a token of appreciation, remembrance, and gratitude. So, thank you, ma'am. And now I invite Professor Kumar to make his presentation.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming out this afternoon. So it's a very hot day, I noticed. I am again Prakash Kumar. As I said in my earlier introduction, when some of you were there, that I'm currently actually writing 2 books. One of them is called A History of Hunger in India. It basically deals with the agrarian society in India and the history of agricultural production, and the role that the Americans played in all of this. The second book that I'm writing is about activist resistance to spread of GM crops in India, in particular to the spread of BT cotton, and why civil society activists are resisting it. So, but the talk today is this one. And as I said, it's so nice to see such a draw. You know, it's very rare for me to get this kind of a draw. And all of a sudden, all the effort that I invested in writing my talk seemed to have been paid well. I tried to write my talk in a way so that it would be quite accessible to the non-specialists and to undergraduate students, to faculty, and to everyone. I have to tell you, it was a challenge because I was also trying to write a talk that would be of some interest to my Indian students here and to my Penn State students who know US history better than Indian history. So that's the talk that I wrote. Now, traveling through the streets of India over the last 4 or 5 days with my Penn State students, I also became aware of certain cultural chasms, cultural gaps. And I thought hard about it. And I thought that I should add something in my talk that, you know, resonates with that. I mean, what is cultural chasm? And how can that be turned into something productive and constructive, right? Cultural chasms are very real. And you'd be foolish to ignore those. But how can we make those gaps interesting for our purposes, intellectual purposes, for our social scientific purposes, and so on and so forth. So as I said, I have written my talk in a way which will be hopefully accessible to all, and I hope it will be worth your time. So Dr. Singhvi, when she mentioned that my talk has been scheduled for 40 minutes, I thought, well, students in India must have a good attention span. So, but jokes apart, you know, 2 years ago I was part of this same India Study Abroad program, and I gave a talk at Shriram College of Commerce, and I have to say that some of the response, some of the questions from the students that I got were some of the best that I've ever received in my professional career. So I have very high respect for Indian students, and of course, for Penn State students as well. Again, I'm not going to hide behind any big words. I'll try to keep the jargons to a minimum. I'll try to keep it interactional, you know, and when I use big words, I'll make sure that I explain those, right? So let's start in the same spirit with, you know, India's hunger problem. I mean, what do I mean by that? So right after its independence in 1947, India through the 50s and 60s, to be precise, till late 60s and early 70s, was a food deficit nation. We did not produce enough to feed ourselves, so we had to import food. Now, many countries in the modern world often import food as a part of economic strategy, but that was not the case with us. We imported food because we were food deficit nation. On the other hand, the 1950s and 1960s, there was one country in the world which was a major food surplus nation, right? And that was the United States, right? So it almost seemed natural that these two countries would get tied up in a food aid relationship. Now, why was United States a food surplus nation? Well, it was a food surplus nation because, it came out of the Second World War actually economically stronger than any other nation. It was one of the nations that became richer because of the Second World War. And at the end of the war, United States had the most sprawling agricultural research infrastructure compared to anyone. I mean, it's just not even comparable with any of the other European nations. Economic strength, economic might, prosperity, full employment, anywhere. No other country came close. Now, coming out of the Second World War as a superpower also meant certain international obligations. What you see here is that gradually, United States started using its food aid policy for its foreign policy objectives. And what those foreign policy objectives were, I'm going to discuss them in some more detail. Now, obviously, I'm not just a US historian. I'm fundamentally a historian of India, South Asia. So what is in it for the South Asianists? So I started with the hunger thing. Hunger. I mean, hunger is a notion, is a concept, right? I was interviewed by a journalist at the Punjab University, and the journalist asked me, what suggestion do you have for farmer suicides in India? And we had a conversation. Anyway, the point which I'm trying to make here is that just because you produce enough doesn't mean that nobody will go hungry. By the way, we produce enough to feed everyone on this planet. And by the way, many people die of hunger. Right? What does that mean? Now, before I go any further, I just wanted to make it a little bit interactionist. So let's see, how many of you are history students? Would you raise your hand? Lovely. Nothing pleases me more than that. How many of you are in sociology, economics, political science? Excellent. All of that is there in my talk, right? So how many of you have heard of the name of Amartya Sen? Very great. So we are very proud of him. Our economist, Nobel laureate, he came up with this notion of hunger, right? What he said is that hunger is not a production problem. It's a distribution problem. So let me explain it to you this way. You produce enough, you provide food in the granaries, and if you're in Amritsar, if you're in Chandigarh, you put it in Elante Mall and here and there. But that doesn't mean that everybody will have access to food. Do people have purchasing capacity? Have you ensured that? This is what he meant by saying that hunger is not a production problem, it's a distribution problem. You don't have the mechanisms in place so that people will have access to food. Now obviously, theoretically, we are talking about very extreme situations, but that's how theories are made. They're generalizable. The same thing, what goes for food goes for wealth. You can produce enough wealth, but you can still have poverty. I was in Atlanta, my son is going to Georgia Tech, and I was traveling with him, and I went to the inner cities. Don't we have poverty in the United States? We do. You can either understand it theoretically, empirically, or you can forget it. But when you forget it, you do it with a motive. There is a certain political motive behind that. And that's what Amartya Sen was trying to tell us. That wealth, production, anything, wealth, food, anything, is not just a production question, it's also a distribution question. Doesn't mean that he's a communist. It just means that he is intellectually engaging with something. He's not asking for redistribution of wealth or creation of a socialist state or anything. It's just saying that you have to be very careful. let me explain it to you this way. How many of you have heard of Green Revolution? Fantastic. Now the Green Revolution, for my Penn State students, it doesn't have any environmental implication. Green Revolution is a particular model of agriculture, high output agriculture, that India embraced specifically between 1964 and 66. Partially, at least, Rajasthan was part of it. It was a partaker in that process. It meant using high-cost inputs like fertilizers, controlled irrigation, pesticides, chemicals, and then the government came back to give support price. It purchased whatever grains were produced by the farmers so that farmers could actually become rich. So what the government was trying to do is to instill a motivation among the farmers to become more productive. That's one way of looking at agricultural production. Now, that model was embraced by India between 1964 and 66, and you could say that nationally, in an aggregate, India achieved food self-sufficiency. But as I said, hunger continues, farmer suicides continue. And that's the question, I think, theoretically, which I'm trying to address by looking at a historical case study. So my talk is on, as I said, the Green Revolution agriculture, Green Revolution model of agriculture in India, and this model which India embraced between 1964 and 66. And this turn took place at the United States prodding. It's documented, and it'll be there in my book as well. So taking this small slice of 1960s history, I'll elaborate on the nature of political context in which United States could persuade India to embrace a new model of agriculture. It takes a lot to persuade another democratic country. What were the circumstances? What were the means? What were the instruments? As I said, I also added up something on the cultural questions that also came up in the diplomatic and political engagements between the United States and India. Especially the types of questions that get hidden when one is only putting emphasis on high politics, involving the perspective of United States ambassador to India, the key players in President Lyndon Johnson's administration, and such others. So very quickly, I mean, even the phrase Green Revolution was given by an American, actually by a USAID operative, United States Agency for International Development, William God, who used it in 1968 to describe this particular model of agriculture, which he saw spreading at the behest of American State Department officials and agronomists, and he was very proud of that. And it did accomplish something. It went across several countries: India, Pakistan, Nepal, Egypt, Israel, several. Many in Asia, actually, mostly in Asia. Now, everything is written there, so I won't repeat. This is the kind of agriculture that I'm referring to, and this is what I have said constitutes the Green Revolution. What is clear is that, if you're looking at India, this represented a clear policy shift towards improving aggregate yield to solve food shortages, away from the prior policy of comprehensive agricultural growth with a focus on the rural community. So what is in contention here through policy instruments is embracing of just yield versus an effort to preserve agrarian communities and the goal of a broad-based growth of the agrarian society. Try to see there is a distinction between those two. So what you decide, the government decides that some folks are pretty good, they're pretty cool, let's give them subsidized fertilizers, power, everything, and let's raise aggregate production so the country is self-sufficient. But the interest of some others can wait. That's the policy implication. There are others who are poor, that's okay. Let's focus on food. These are the smart folks. Let's focus on them. Now, the criticism of Green Revolution in India started along with the revolution itself. So the critics, they targeted Green Revolution's focus on rich kulak farmers and its failure in reducing poverty at lower ends of society. and for its ecological degradation. Many of you would be aware of the Dust Bowls in the 1920s and 30s. So a very similar thing happened in the states of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and so on. Historians also reassessed United States' role in bringing the Green Revolution to India. And here, the emphasis was on examining the role of Lyndon Johnson presidency. President of the United States, Lyndon Johnson, between 1963 and 69. They also looked at the role of foundations, Rockefeller Foundation, private philanthropic organizations that invested in raising agriculture production in India. And by the way, for those of you who are interested, this experiment starts in the Deep South in the United States, because Deep South had the same kind of poor folks. That's the language that they used. So we have to come up with a kind of an agriculture that helps poor folks. So, a brief history of American food aid to India can put spotlight on the pressures that the American State Department, which is basically the foreign ministry, what we call foreign ministry in India, was able to bring on India. Let's stay here for the time being. So there was one particular legislation, Public Law 480, which was enacted in 1954, and US Congress enacted this law in 1954, and this legislation allowed for shipment of American food grains to other countries in the world. India signed 3 agreements in the 1950s, but the most important one came in 1960. You can see, this is a report that was published in Washington Post, and this puts into perspective the 1960 agreement between the United States and India for sending American grains to India. Almost half the annual wheat crop and more than half the annual rice crop of the United States was estimated to be sent to India over the next 4 years. That's a lot of food grains. You really have to understand, why should United States do this, right? Why would they send so much of food grains to another country? It also said, the report, it meant that a little more than 1 shipload of grain will be leaving the United States each day bound for India for 4 years. Each day, a ship full of grains. Now, why would the United States do this? You know, as historians, as social scientists, as critics, you have to understand this thing. Why did the United States do this? What's in it for the US? Now, a very easy way, you can have a facile explanation, intellectually lazy explanation. Oh, because the United States is generous. Of course it is. But there has to be something more. And when you look at State Department records, when you look at newspaper reports, there were plenty of people in the United States who opposed sending of food grains to India. Some said, why are we overexploiting our land? Some said there are single moms. Some said the veterans are not getting their security checks. Why are we sending all this wealth to India? So when you start looking at records at a lower level, you come across these conflicting postures. And that's very insightful. I want to offer this explanation that PL 480, the law under which grains were sent to India, was facilitated by a particular political economy. These shipments of grains to foreign nations allowed for disposal of surplus grains and stabilizing of prices of food grains in the United States, which kept the agricultural constituencies happy at home, and in the Midwest particularly. For the farming sections, if the prices dropped because of a surplus food in the market, it would be catastrophic. And farming lobbies have always been very strong in the Congress. Well, every kind of lobby has been strong in the Congress, but the farming lobby is particularly strong. There are uncanny similarities between this situation and the Indian situation, by the way, for my Penn State students. Very similar similarities. Much of the Green Revolution agriculture was, we may think it's private capitalism, but it was all government supported. It was a subsidy agriculture. If you stay in touch with the newspaper reports and latest elections, every politician offers, first of all, free irrigation to farmers, and waiving off their debts. I'm in support of that as a progressive. But I just want you to look at the politics of it. There is a certain politics behind it. And it's very global. It happened in the United States, it's happening in India now. So, there was an overproduction machinery at work. Federal subsidies in the United States allowed for agricultural overproduction in the Midwest. Congressmen and senators from the Midwest made sure that no dent was made to farm subsidies. The federal government not only was ready to foot the bill for production, but also for storage. In the 1960s, the United States government was spending $1 million a day to store this extra grain. So it made sense to send the surplus food grain to other countries and make it serve foreign policy objectives. So why should India be interested in food aid? Well, our Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, he could embark in the 1950s upon an industry-led development program as a result of these aids, rather than an agriculture-led development program. And cheap American food could be distributed through the public distribution system to urban poor, to marginal rural classes, and also be used for market interventions to keep food prices low. Food prices going up is not good politics for any politician. You have to keep food prices low, in particular in a developing country. This was a win-win situation for political classes in the United States and India, and that's what facilitated PL 480. But something changed during the time period 1964-65. As I said, I'll be focusing my talk on that period in particular. The 1960 Food Aid Bilateral Treaty between the United States and India was due for renewal in 1964. And India was already dependent on US support. And it expected that this agreement would be renewed for next 4 years. And that's when Lyndon Johnson developed cold feet. Why? Well, now, gradually, the American Food Aid Program had moved from surplus disposal framework to trade and aid framework. The new foreign policy objective was, let's give food to other countries as long as they embrace private entrepreneurship, as long as they embrace a very free market kind of a system for production and distribution of food. Besides, the surplus was no longer as huge as it used to be. The federal government had launched quota production system whereby it offered incentives to farmers to not produce too much. And that had been successful. President Lyndon Johnson by the way, was a very successful presidency. He had a very successful presidency. He had a prolific domestic legislative agenda, Stamp Act. He had this legislative agenda could be seen in both poverty elimination and racial injustice. Perhaps one of the most successful presidents as far as legislative agenda is concerned. But now, he was interested in building the so-called the Great Society in the United States. But now, he wanted to export this idea abroad. He wanted to export to other post-colonial nations some of the successes that he had had in social legislations at home. So the Public Law 480 was changed. It was turned into Food for Peace, and it was also tied up to this new notion of self-help. We will give you food, but don't take us for granted. You will have to self-help. What does self-help mean? You'll have to change the way you produce food grain. They looked at the Indian production system and they said, this is not working out. If you keep doing that, you will be importing food forever. You have to make changes of a certain kind. And that's where the power relationship comes into play. So by the way, this is the debate that I'm trying to join in. Now, some other historians have explained US interest in sending food to countries like India as part of food aid mechanism. And they're trying to explain it as part of this Cold War context. Again, how many of you are aware of Cold War? Just broadly. I'm not going to corner you and ask you a question. But Cold War, yes, the superpower rivalry between the United States and then Soviet Union, or Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR, right? And this Cold War, at its peak in the 1950s and 60s, was about global dominance. Korean War was a part of it. And this war was basically, at the end of the day, ideological. It was about Western liberal route to modernization as against the communist route, right? Now, scholars have argued that American role in Green Revolution in Asia was defined by an urge to prevent the spread of communism. So the United States was interested in sending food aid and leveraging food aid to force others to change their agricultural system in order to fight communism. How does that make sense? Well, they believed that countries in Asia were facing acute food scarcity, and they're suspicious that widespread hunger might lead to popular unrest in overpopulated nations like India. There was a fear that these countries, like India, might fall prey to the radical propaganda and possible communist takeovers. And that fear propelled American effort for intervention. Plus, India was of a special interest to the Cold Warriors. How so? On ideological grounds. China became communist in 1949. And State Department officials looked at this as a loss. They always talked about the loss of China. China has been lost to the communist camp. India, democratic India, was an important testing ground to showcase the American route to agricultural modernization, as against the collectivization route to modernization, which China had shown. And China was showing tremendous agricultural productivity increase. And it was showcasing that. And the United States had to make a case that, no, that's not the only way. There is a better way, and we will show it. That was the special interest in India. I'm trying to skip a few things. How am I doing with time? How much time do I have? When did I start?
10 more minutes.
How many?
Just about 10 more minutes.
10 minutes.
Then maybe a section of the audience would leave, but then you could continue for about half hour if you want, because
I can finish in 10 minutes.
You can?
Yeah. Now, I look at the PL480 relationship in another way. What I argue is that PL480 and food aid system pried open, it opened up Indian agricultural system to a growing process of surveillance and prescription. There was a growing scrutiny of India's agriculture and its prospects and problems by American policymakers, the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA agronomists, and diplomats. There was also a growing sense of entitlement in policy circles and beyond in the United States that, since Americans were providing food, the donor country had a right to make prescriptions. Others thought that it was legitimate to allow national businesses to expand their markets in India under the wings of aid relationship. Private interests were supported in taking advantage of the emerging food relationship between the United States and India. In all, the emergent expectation within the policy establishment in USA that India should embrace the American model of agricultural modernization was itself what I call an imperial will. This was an imperial will of intervention and impact. And the 1960s saw the coming together of all of these elements. Now, in the remaining 10 minutes that I have, I'll put spotlight on two things. First, I will focus on some key policy changes in the Lyndon-Johnson presidency. And second, I will illuminate one specific episode. Actually, I might even leave the first one. I'll just focus on one particular congressional delegation that was sent to India in the 1960s as part of this drive to persuade India to change its agriculture towards this agricultural aggregate yield enhancement template. Orville Freeman, Secretary of Agriculture, was dispatched to India with a very clear suggestion from President Johnson. He was asked to tell Indian leaders that they have to engage in self-help, or they cannot take US food aid for granted. Right? And they said that we need to see evidence on the ground that you're really changing, reforming your agriculture. We will not just take your word for granted. You need to show us evidence that you're changing agriculture. So what Lyndon Johnson did is that no more of 2-year agreement and 4-year agreement. We will have a month-by-month extension of food aid. And that was done to leverage food aid to force India to make changes. It was also done because around this time, Indira Gandhi, who was the Prime Minister of India, was very critical of Vietnam policy of the United States. So every time Indira Gandhi would raise her voice, Lyndon Johnson his feet would get colder. So this was a way of leveraging food aid to a starving nation and make them change themselves along the lines you want them to change. Now, by the way, these are very extremely politically charged and sensitive issues. I mean, I've talked to people who have lived through 1960s, and they have very strong views about this relationship. So I want to treat this subject with the same, with the respect that it deserves, and not trivialize the story in any way. So, on Christmas Eve, just before Christmas actually, these congressmen, William Pogue, Senator Jack Miller, Congressman Robert J. Dole, Bob Dole, they were sent to India on a mission. And they were sent to India to make sure